and welcome to this episode of the Lifelong Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Molly from Three Pines Leadership, and thank you for spending this part of your day here with us. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite things, which is public speaking. So before I tell you all of my fun stories about public speaking and all of that, I want to remind you to connect with me on your social platforms. Check me out on Twitter at Coach Molly with an E, on Instagram at 3_pines_leadership, 3 Pines Leadership. And I will also remind you that you can find the Lifelong Podcast on all of your favorite podcast streaming platforms, but also in video format on the Three Pines Leadership YouTube page. So if you haven't checked us out yet, please do. And remember, subscribe. We release lots of fun content almost every day of the week, it seems now. Well, today, as I said, we're talking about public speaking. I got the public speaking bug when I was in 6th grade because I loved the power of standing on the stage, and it was just fabulous. It really was. And so I started my public speaking career when I was in 6th grade. My teacher decided that he saw something in me in our speeches and our public speaking class, that he asked me to then be the MC for all of the school's assemblies. And I thought that was so much fun. And later that evolved into doing all of the announcements at the school. And my mom used to stand on our deck in our backyard. She didn't work until later on in the day. And she would stand there in the mornings drinking her morning coffee and hear the announcements from the school, because the school's literally in the backyard. Well, on the other side of the fence. And she'd sit there drinking her coffee, listening to me giving the morning announcements. And then later that evolved into doing my own radio shows and broadcasting, into doing debating on the world stage. And it was so amazing. Public speaking is a game changer. It's a skill that if you start to relish it and you start to love public speaking, it's going to change the game for you. So these are some of the tips that I came up with that I want you to share with the teenagers and the young people in your life. Because if you can start public speaking at a younger age and you find that confidence at a young age, it's less time that you get to spend worrying in your adult life, doubting yourself. So believe in yourself. Share this episode with all of the kids in your life because these tips are designed for them. So the first tip, my friends, the first tip I want to give you when it comes to public speaking, how to dominate in public speaking, whether it's debating, whether or not it's Model UN, whether it's a virtual presentation, whether or not it's a speech class, it doesn't matter. But the first thing you need to do is when you get that assignment, when you know that you're going to be public speaking, start working on it. I can tell you all the different things that you need to understand before you step on that stage. And I know it because I failed at it for years. For years. I made an absolute fool of myself. But I learned from every little mistake along the way. When you spend that time preparing for your presentation, it gives you time to really immerse yourself in what you're talking about. And that way, when it comes to the day that you actually have to stand on that stage in front of a crowd, you know your presentation backwards and forwards. You know the topic in your soul, and you can talk about it just casually like we're talking right now. You don't need to have to memorize things word for word when you really understand your topic in your soul. So make sure you spend as much time preparing for your presentation as you can. Don't leave it to the last minute. I've done that. It doesn't work. The second tip is going to be actually kind of difficult for a lot of people, and I know it was for me too. And the second tip is to ask for critique. I really hated doing this for a long time, but recently I was organizing an event with a whole bunch of speakers. And this one speaker who I was honestly gobsmacked. I was blown away that this person would agree to be part of my event. I looked up to them so much. And at the end of her presentation, when we were chatting at the end, she asked, "Hey, do you have any feedback for me? What could I do better?" And it, from my perspective, blew my mind. was like, what? This person who I think is one of the best speakers in the world is asking for my input? She thinks she wasn't amazing? And it was after a conversation with her that I realized, she explained to me, and I realized that's how you become the best. You have to constantly be asking people for feedback. Ask people, how can you do better? How can you improve? And when you take that criticism to heart and you put it into play, you'll dominate. And I'm saying ask for critique. Don't ask for criticism. Criticism is just people's opinions being thrown at you. A critique is when people can give you a pointed piece of information, something that you can tangibly work on. So whether or not that's what it used to be for me, I used to fidget. I used to go back and forth from left foot to right foot. And it was just comforting for me. But it's really distracting. Or people can fiddle with their hands a lot. And that you might not notice that you're doing it. It's when you ask for that kind of critique. And eventually, one day, I hope for all of you that you find an incredible coach. I had an amazing debate coach and debate partner, and they would both call me out for the littlest things, but it's because they loved me and they wanted me to do my best. So I knew that I could listen and respect and take to heart any kind of criticism or critique that they gave me. My third tip for you is to figure out what other kinds of resources you can use. So in some situations, you may not have a choice. You may, and I've done this before, so I used to speak on a variety of stages. So in a debate format, only certain styles of debating will allow you to have props or to have a whiteboard that you can draw out things and you can paint a picture that way. My favorite stage that I've ever performed on, though, will have to be any kind of poetry slam stage. So in slam, it's competitive poetry. I know, the craziest idea in the world. So much fun. So in the rules of slam, there's a time limit. There's rules about judging and scores and all that kind of stuff. And there's a rule that you can't have costumes, props, or instruments. It's just you. If you haven't memorized your poem, you can bring up your book and read from it, but you cannot use that book as a prop. And that was such an incredible challenge for me. I absolutely loved it. And at these events, there would be one event a year where no rules. So people could do other people's poems. They could use props and costumes and instruments. And oh my goodness, they did. There was set designs one year. There was a whole group performance with instruments and confetti. And it was amazing. But what I want you to understand is that in each different situation, in each different presentation, you're going to have different restrictions. But I need you to understand that there are places that you can add so much extra flair. Is the venue that you're speaking at, are you able to use a PowerPoint presentation, for example? Can you use that as a way to give extra information and bonus entertainment to your people as you're presenting? Does it help to drive your point home? Look for those opportunities, but don't rely on them. Make sure that you are passionate about what you're talking about, and that way you can go on and on and on, and it doesn't matter what kind of visuals you have because you are the one selling it. Your passion, your excitement, and your charisma is what's selling it. And my final tip I want to give you guys is to be creative. Look for opportunities to be yourself, to be unique, and to bring your talents to the stage. I don't know, are you a beatboxer? How can you use that in your presentation? Are you a dancer? Can you use that to get people's attention? There are so many different ways to utilize each of our unique talents and abilities. And there's different ways we can talk about it. We can talk about using them if you're going to work in sales, or we can use them if you're going to talk about influence, or if you're really just trying to entertain people. What you need to do is embrace what makes you unique, because that's what's going to be a great hook to get people's attention. To get people's attention long enough that you can tell them a story and persuade them to do whatever you want them to do. That's your opportunity, my friends. So those are my really simple public speaking presentation tips. My other one, my little bonus, if you have stage fright, I used to get horrible stage fright, even though I loved public speaking, but it just felt so not me. So what I started to do was I started to wear silly glasses and realized that the second I put those glasses on, I became someone who is brave and confident and loves to speak in public. Now I don't need my glasses to do that. I just need them to see. So if you need to have a prop with you, if you need to have a lucky pair of shoes or a lucky tie or a silly hair clip, a headband or anything like that, do it. It'll make you unique, but more importantly, it'll make you feel confident. And if you need to have that suit of armor until you yourself have built yourself to be brave and strong, then do it, my friends. Whatever it takes, I want you to find your confidence. That's it for this episode. I hope these tips and techniques will be great help to you in your quest to take over the world. All right, everyone. I'm Coach Molly from Three Pines Leadership. This is the Lifelong Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. And until next time, remember, I love you and be excellent to each other.